Hey, Mortgage Coach, Dave Savage here, CEO of Mortgage Coach. Every Tuesday, 9 o'clock, I am committed to delivering the mortgage industry's best sales meeting to get you guys pumped up, to get you guys focused, and to share ideas and strategies just to help you be more successful in today's mortgage market. Today, as my co-host, I have Mr. Dan Keller. What's up, Dan?
Good morning, Mortgage Coach. How are you guys today?
It is a good day, my friend. So we are going to be interviewing Bob Beaudine, a good friend of mine, author of The Power of Who. As we were doing our prep just a minute ago, Bob had his internet freeze, so it's going to be a few minutes late to the interview, but I'm sure he'll be here any minute now. So Dan, let's do this. Before Bob gets in, I think it would be great for folks to have an understanding of why I asked you to be my co-host. And why don't you tell everybody your Power of Who story? You know, how you got referred the book, here we go. We got Bob.
There.
But Dan, why don't you do a minute or two?
Okay, you there?
Your Power of Who story. Hey, Bob, we are live broadcasting to the community. I am going to have Dan speak for a minute or two on his Power of Who story. And then I will bring you in and we will start the interview, my friend.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, so it really only happened a couple of months ago, Dave. You were up here in Seattle, actually on my birthday, and we were grabbing a glass of wine, you know, and you were just asking, you know, like friends do, asking, you know, what were a couple big things I'm working on right now, and how does 2019 look? What am I working on in 2019? I said, you know, 2019 is the year that I go deeper. I'm really focused in on. I'm going to focus in on friendships. I'm going to focus in on relationships and getting closer with my business partners and realtors and clients. And you stop me and you're like, hey, you've read The Power of Who, haven't you? And I was like, no, I haven't. And he goes, dude. And you had me order it right on the spot. I went on Amazon. I ordered it. 2 days later, it was in my house. And that was September 26th. So let's say the 29th. And I've been obsessed with this phenomena, this book, Bob Beaudine. I think I've watched every video on the internet interview with Bob and you. And it's just an incredible idea that I think we all kind of know, but we're unaware of how to really implement it. So that's my story, man. I'm super, super pumped to be here today and to be a part of this interview.
All right. So Mortgage Coach community, most of you know Dan, because I interview Dan all the time. You know, we're bringing mortgage strategies, we're bringing tactics. Dan's talking about how to use social media, how to use video. Today is just about doing business with people you love, you know, and it's about connecting with people in a more intentional way. I'm not going to do a long story on my Power of Who story just because I've interviewed Bob multiple times. I'm going to put a link down below to one of my first interviews with Bob. Bob and I shared the stage at Sales Mastery. Bob, how many years ago do you think that was?
9 and a half, maybe 10.
It was a long time ago. And we started that experience where we had dinner together with Todd Duncan because we were both speakers. And I mean, I think we had dinner the next 3 nights together and we just became lifelong friends. At least that's how I remember it.
100%. I think that there's, as you said, there's some people come into your life for, you know, a reason and a season. You definitely came in it for me as well.
Yeah. And since then, I'm not going to list all the changes I've made, but it's made business better. I have made more money as a result of this relationship. And more importantly, I have had more fun with friends. Just like, I mean, I don't even know if that wine experience would have happened with Dan Keller if I hadn't become one with the book of The Power of Who. So like when I travel now, it's not uncommon that I'll stay the night at a good friend's house. I've stayed the night at Bob's house multiple times. And I'm always trying to like, who are my who in the city I'm in? And I want to do life and business with my who. And so, I mean, I'm not even sure that experience would have happened, Dan, if I wouldn't have had Bob in my life. So Bob, if you could, I think there's people on this call that have read your book and they've heard your story. By the way, I'm going to push a poll question in a minute. You know, who knows Bob and who's read his book? But if someone hasn't heard me interview you or they haven't heard your book, you know, tell a little bit about yourself and tell about why you wrote it and a little bit about the book.
So first off, it's, being with Dave and Dan, first off, thanks for kind of a new whole world of generation, a whole new seasoned young superstars that are like hitting the market and catching and grabbing onto something. And, I tell people a lot of times is not only is everything that you ever know and want to know already written, this whole concept initially is that, a aspect here is that what's so wild is that you already know everyone you need to know also, not for the future, for where we might go, but for where we are today. So initially I have an executive search firm, and my dad started the executive search industry in 1967 out of McKinsey. And he had been traveling, doing everything, doing the busyness of what everybody does today in networking. And we used to sit and talk when I got into the business, and I've been doing search now for 38 years. He says to me all the time, we would sit and talk, and he says, meet people, do this. And I used to always say that, Dad, I really think that networking is crap. And I just think that it's not working, that it's gone a different direction. And so my dad really was always pressing me on writing stuff and doing stuff. And so the same aspect to me as real estate mortgage world, I have to, as an executive recruiter, go out and get a piece of business. I have to go develop a relationship with a client, build a friendship. And then I have to once I get it, then I have to do all the work. It's kind of like, then I got to actually find the candidates, build relationships with them, bring them together and make this match. And so when I first joined my dad's business, he used to say to me, hey, there's 3 goals in this business. Make friends, help your friends in every way possible, and don't be surprised if you do a lot of business with your friends. And so that just stuck with me for years before I started to write this. And, my dad in 2000 on his deathbed said to me I was going to write 5 books. And I thought, I just kind of laughed out loud with my dad. I said, I can't write a memo. I don't even know what you're talking about. And he said, no, you've been saying something, and I think if we listen to our friends, we hear something from our friends around us all the time. They're saying something. There's a tone, there's a direction that things are happening, and you got to look for the clues. So I came up with this one thought right off the bat. What if each of us were given specific people in our lives to help us in ways we never imagined? And what if those people just aren't happenstance acquaintances? What if they were strategically given you to help find you that place in life you always dreamed about? And what if we're like missing destiny? What if finding our next job, getting new clients, helping people at our church, helping people in our family, getting to schools? What if all of this isn't about people you don't know, but people you're neglecting, your friends? Could it be simpler? Could all the things you have be sitting dead in front of your face, but you keep pressing forward into what's called networking, which is faceless websites, handing out business cards to strangers, sending out Dear Recruiter letters, right? All this other stuff. So the premise initially that I found was there are some things in life that are so profound. And I hate, sometimes the word profound is just like overwhelming because but the word's profound in that some things are hidden. And that's why I wrote The Power of Who. It's hidden right in front of us, that there's a power, and it's not, just about friendship because you got 5,000 people on Facebook are your best friends. And we've taken the word friendship and totally changed it and made it different. This aspect are people, what I call your who, the people who matter most. And so there are things invisible that I want to talk about today when we're sitting with Dave and Dan that are hidden. But if we would activate these 3 things that I'm going to share today, if we'd activate these 3 things in The Power of Who, your sight, your vision, the joy of what it is that you're doing with your clients, that you wouldn't be just doing something with clients that are transactional, but they would be transformational. And I think that's a decision that just happens because Dave, the first time you and I met,
So we just lost Bob. I'm going to share a couple thoughts, and then Dan, I'm going to bring it to you. So one, just going online and reading a little bit about who Bob is and what he's accomplished in business helps you gain credibility around the big idea that he shares. It's real. This is a guy that is one of the most successful executive recruiters in the industry. And when it comes to in the sports field, I mean, he is the man. He has placed the former commissioners of baseball, the current commissioners of the Olympics. No one has placed more head coaches and executives in the sports industry. Whether it's baseball, basketball, football. Sports Illustrated named Bob one of the most influential people in sports that you've never heard of, and he's done all this focused on his who you know. And so if you're new in the mortgage business, to me, this is one of the biggest gifts we could ever give you. Is like, I can't imagine if I would have read The Power of Who and really focused on The Power of Who from the day I got in. And by the way, it looks like 3%, it looks like 8% of the people on the call have read the book. Yeah. And it looks like 60 to 70% have never even heard of it. You go online, you read about Bob, you hear about the big idea. It's game changing. Even if you're a $100 million producer and you're killing it, this will help elevate your game. So Dan, while we're waiting for Bob to get back in, and it looks like he's coming, what would be a few of the things that really caught you? Like I said what I said, you bought the book. What made you really connect with this content? And then Bob, we'll give it back to you in a minute here.
I think one of the big things when we were sitting there having that glass of wine, you asked me if I'd heard the book or read the book, and I said no. How you summarized The Power of Who was just incredible. You said, listen, you personally know the author, Bob, but how you said that he had over 5,500 relationships over his years in business, 5,500 relationships, but when he audited those relationships, he found that 87 actually helped him financially, spiritually, emotionally, contributed to his life. And then out of that, he honed in on 12. And so I think that right there, literally, it caused me to buy the book. And I was like, that's me. I'm trying to call, realtors every single week, 100 realtors a week or however it may be, where I already know. I already have 12 realtors that I know that I do business that could probably introduce me to other amazing real estate agents. And so just so many light bulbs went off in my head. And then I've heard you speak and give your story on it, Bob, where you spent, 50 or 5 million miles flying all over the country. And your big aha was like, I have everything I need right in front of me. How many air miles and how much time did you spend meeting all those people to arrive at the fact that this idea, your who, is right there. We already have it.
So yeah, are you hitting in here, Dave, or you want me to?
No, jump all over it. I just wanted to make sure you could hear it and we could hear you, and we can.
I apologize for I don't know what was the misconnect there, but here's the thing. It's just funny. Can you go through a life? We know we all hate the concept of going to make cold calls, go out to a bunch of people who don't know us. We have to over brag about ourselves. We're talking about things. Wouldn't it be logical that people think these kind of 4 things when you walk in a room? The first thing they think is, do I know you? I mean, so wouldn't it be logical that someone already knows the realtor and they're friends and they say, hey, I love Dave or Dan? That's exactly what it is. So if you could get one person to do an introduction instead of a bunch of thousands of people who kind of know you, but they don't know you, and it's a transaction, what if you had a friend who would actually personally say, oh my gosh, they introduce you well. They say, I've known Dan for the last 10 years. And not only is a great human being, cares about you, he's detailed. I mean, you're going to love him. And people who I tell Dave that I love him, Dave loves. Why? They're my who. Yeah. You don't need to get into that. And so you have an 87% chance of doing a deal with someone if someone knows them. Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, if nothing would do something better than that, and that's really one of the things that I was doing in search, is that I was out just spending time with people everywhere, handing out business cards, talking to people. And then when I stopped, And I took like stupid off my forehead and focused in on the people who knew me and wanted to do something for me because they would. We just took it. But if you moved and they liked you, oh my gosh, now we're at 94%. And we haven't even talked about needs. We haven't even said about yet you being the best. But the flip of that is, I think we have such a disaster today because people are being bombarded in social media, bombarded in getting a bunch of information that people are sending out. And they're talking about a lot of stuff that doesn't actually resonate. What is that? They flip this, know you, like you, understand needs and best. And what do? They say, I'm the best. They cut out the people piece. They say, hey, listen, I understand your needs. How would you understand my needs if I don't know you? And then they're going to say, you're going to like me. And at some point you get to know me. And of course, all of that's kind of embarrassing.
No doubt. So guys, I'm going to hand this off to you a minute, Dan, and I really want you to interview Bob because I've interviewed him. Again, folks, links down below to some of my best interviews with Bob. And if you want to go deeper with people that you do business with, you want to have a more productive relationship, and you just want to plain old have more fun and be more fulfilled, then dig in, read the book, watch a few more of the interviews, and do the work, because it is work, just like, remember, write this down, everybody, Who Friday. Who Friday is a concept that is life-changing. Now, again, you got to time block it. You got to make sure you do Who Friday. I'm not going to explain what Who Friday is yet, although we will tell you before this calls out what it is. But Dan, why don't you start interviewing Dan or Bob yourself as you would as a loan officer? Because my goal with this call is that if you're a referral-based local mortgage professional, I want you to have a competitive advantage so that as Amazon Mortgage is coming in, I want you to have such deep relationships with the people that you do life with and you do business with in your local market that you're like Amazon proof. And so who better to do that than Dan Keller, a guy that really doesn't have much to worry about because he's doing this business right. So I'll hand it off to you. I'm going to sit back. If I have something to add, I'll jump in and I will have some closing thoughts.
Yeah.
But Dan, why don't you take over on this interview?
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. So really right now, what I wanted to do with this interview is I've got a message that I want to get out to real estate professionals that I connect with in the community up here in Seattle, along with the mortgage coach lending community. And so I think right now we are in end of October of 2018. We're coming off of an incredible ride. The past 2-3 years in real estate, we've had great appreciation. We've had artificially low, interest rates, and we're starting to shift. The market's still healthy, but we're starting to shift into a higher interest rate market. The housing market's kind of slowing back down to reality. And what real estate agents and lenders are finding out right now, it's tougher. It's tougher to meet new clients. It's tougher to get a transaction from start to finish. And so what I wanted to do, Bob, if you had I've got 3 really good questions for you. But the first is, we're taught in our industries, both real estate and lending, when we get in and we're new, hey, go connect with your sphere of influence. Those are people that you know. But then right away, it's like they kind of abort mission. And then right away, next thing you know, that rookie loan officer, that young loan officer, realtor is spending $1,000 a month for Zillow leads or for internet leads. And then they're doing something, they're chasing just busy work, stuff that it doesn't have a high payoff. So one, what's your best advice for someone in this shifting market, mortgage professional, lender, to apply the power of who to their business?
So it's a contrarian view, Dan. So that's the start. So everything to which we're saying is get out and do numbers and press and push and be there and try to say I'm the best and work really hard, have some big card, some big company, something that you're doing, but it has nothing to do with us. And so it has no personal piece. The old line that Zig Ziglar used to say to me is, hey, what do you think of this line? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I said, I like that line. And he says, it's 2 words short. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care about them.
Yeah.
So the answer sometimes is that it's lazy if you wouldn't think that you know one person who knows something in the field to which you are. I mean, your community, people know people and they've developed relationships. and people want to go deeper. So sometimes you have to stop and take 2 steps backwards to move into a zone, to move 2 steps backward, to move into a zone that where all of a sudden you can move way forward. And so my first advice is that, hey, who is it that you're trying to get to? Make a list. Just make a list of some people that you've been trying to get to. And then who is over here your friends that actually know them? You've never asked them. We don't see our friends and family as resources and conduits to our dream. So I try to tell people, so in my business, in executive search, so I place people in sports and entertainment. They're the leading in the world. So you'd look on the back of my book, you'd see I got, I have all of a sudden Commissioner Roger Goodell or Troy Aikman or Wayne Gretzky, but they're not personal friends of mine. I didn't put them on there. I proved the fact that I know friends of theirs. And because they're such good friends with them, they are compelled to want to do something with me. They will meet. And I think we have to, you have to get away from just the texting and the letters and the stuff and start taking people to coffee. Yeah. If I wanted to do something just big, I stop and just say in my community alone, right? There's a charity. I'd get involved and see what I can do. And the people around the charity, because I'm genuine and I love this charity, they're going to help me. There's people who are all of a sudden in various aspects of clubs, etc. But I'm going for the people piece rather than the business piece. That always follows. But I at least know who I'm trying to meet, because I can't, here's my question, Dan. So if I asked you to help me introduce me into a field of business, you would say, hey, let me think about that. I'll call you back. But I didn't ask you anything. I just talked generally, and it was lazy. I didn't tell you what I wanted. Yeah. You got to be specific. Start with specific names. The answer is, I might not know those, but what if I knew someone else you needed to know? Just because you stopped and said, hey, here's a group that I'd really like to do business. They're my neighbor. Yeah. And now we're rolling. Yeah. It sounds, listen to me. The problem with the power of who sometimes is that it sounds too simple. Yeah. It sounds like, hey, I gotta impress, because listen, I think we're all pretty clear today, if at any other time, that if talent was the reason everyone did all these deals, we wouldn't have Congress and Senate, right? Yeah. I mean, it's just, so the answer is, these people on the other hand have great who. Yeah. And they started as little precinct, people, and they worked through their community and they did great. And I think that's what we got to get back to is first the who. Who are your who? And once we can start to identify these sectors, things change. Love it. Love it. Okay. So for the community, you're going to want to read the book. I encourage you to read the book, but then you've also published, which I have done, this workbook, the Power of Who workbook. The Power of Who workbook is going to help you kind of really identify who your who is, and then your who, and then the process of going out and connecting the dots. For someone that's listening today, where would they start? Where would they start? So how would they identify, kind of like you just said, you need to find out who you're trying to reach, but what are the steps that you teach in regards to identifying your 12, and then what do you do with them? Or identifying your who, and then what do you do with them to go deeper? So there's a group of people that you've known and you grew up with. I call it your who community, this who network. These are people that you have developed over years through love and unconditional giving. That'll come to your aid if you'd ask them. The problem is that you just haven't talked to them in a while. You got busy. See, there's a big difference between friends and friendly. And so people who are friends, a friend is someone who helps you now. An acquaintance wishes you well, right? And so friends will help you do things that mere acquaintances wouldn't even consider. And so what people think is that they're going to go out to some influencers and they think they can just call them up on the phone or on LinkedIn and set up their meeting, because they inverted this hierarchy of thought. Know you, like you, understand needs and best, and they inverted it. I'm the best. You think you can cut right to there. Yeah, well, you can't move from private to general in a day. So you first got to identify who are your who. So that would start with family, uncles, aunts, people in the community, your church, people who all of a sudden you've gone to school with. You listen to me. Why is it that you gave up on all these friends, like as if they didn't know one person who knew another person? The concept of the power who is, if you had 100 friends and I have 100 friends, we don't have 200, we have 10,000.
Yep.
So hold on a second. We don't have 100 friends, but if we had 50, we'd have 2,500 people in our network, kind of like that Verizon had, these people who were all behind me, who would come to your aid. But we got to make a list. So there are community activities that you've gone to. There have been conferences you go. Like if you go to a conference, don't go out and just sit and start handshaking every single person. Find the person who's your best friend in this community. If I went to a mortgage banking, I'm going to go stand right next to Dave Savage. And the two of us are going to sit there. And then when someone would come up that Dave knew or I knew, I'd give him a high five, I'd hug him, and then I would say, I got to introduce you. And I would introduce Dave over the top.
Yeah.
A guy they need to know, a guy that is one of my really close friends, a person you can trust. And then I'd start to talk, and then all of a sudden I get them to start. Dave's from here, he's from here, and I'm starting to talk. She's from this, you're from this, and I start to connect the one thing that I know they have in common. Okay, and then I let them talk, and now I'm starting the next person. And see, the problem that we have is that, let's just say you look up online and you find that there's 20 people, which is, in my strategy, it's simple. There's 100 strategy, 140 strategy. And this 100 is, you have potentially in your life 100 people in and around your community, in and around your life, okay, that you've known and gotten to be friends with. And yours might be 20, it could be 30, whatever that number is. It's much, much bigger than you think.
Yeah.
Because these people know people. Then we have this list, this 40 list. Who are the people you want to do business with? Let's say I'm in Dallas. Who are all the realtors and all the top people who could give me business, okay, that I do business with, mortgage wise, that all of a sudden I could help them on both sides of the business. Because I'm going to touch and be a help to people financially. I'm going to be there on their board of directors. I'm going to have this whole side. I mean, it's like Jim McMahon, who's been my broker, my guy, my mortgage banker for all these years, is not just like a friend. He's been my guy that I always called for advice on, should I sell my lake house? Should I do this? Should I go here? Should I do this? Where does this fit? But it's much more financial. And so these people, I have to tell, actually, my friends, do you know them? So I'd have to do something. And so the crucial piece that we have to do here is I guess we'd have to ask them. That could be in a world to which we live today, which is rude, right?
Yeah.
To ask anybody. So, if you and I are best friends and I asked you for help, would you help me?
Absolutely.
Why would you deny me the same joy of helping you? And see, it never works in reverse. So you got to understand, there's 3 reasons you're not going to get your dream. You don't ask. You ask wrong who. You're asking influencers instead of your own people, because you don't value them. You don't see that they have friends. You don't see that they could connect. And the reason you couldn't connect is simple, because you didn't really come up with a name of a person you wanted. So when I do it, so you don't ask, you ask the wrong who, and you're vague. So let me show you how this relates in my business. I call you up. I'm doing a search for a chief financial officer at a company.
Okay.
I say, Dan, hey, so I'm doing this search. It's a great job. It's with this. Who do you know? Well, first off, I caught you busy. And you say, hey, let me think about it, Bob. That sounds really interesting, really glad. So I'm not letting you off the phone, am I? No. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, do you mind if I run 7 things by you, 7 people? See, what if I then started to tell people and then I slow your mind down? And I start to get you, and then you go, no, I don't know that person. No, I kind of know. Yeah, I know that person. That's not the one I'd pick. Who do you do? And then you start thinking, you're about 5 or 6 into this. I wonder how I get Bob off the phone. and I'm banking on that. And so what are you going to do? Well, you're going to give me the one name in your friends, because you and I are friends, because you want to help me. Friends naturally want to help each other. And so I'm going to open a door for you. And what if that door that you now give me, that person opens me to one more, and my 100, that's 100 new people that I can use. And so my opening response is, Dan, do you mind? Hey, so this guy, do you know his cell number? You know her cell number? Would you mind making a call over there, just introducing me first? Then I call over and say, hey, Dan and I are great friends. I need your help. I'm doing this. I'm trying to accomplish this, da, da, da. And then they introduce you in closer. The hardest part for most of this new business is that we're not making enough personal calls with people we really like. And we're sitting in a bunch of meetings with a bunch of people we don't know. And we're trying to say, this is who we are. What if somebody else told who you were beforehand and I already liked you before you walked in? And then we started this little routine, this triangle of it's you and me, and we're talking about, Dave Savage. And that's where it is. And see, and I think that's where you wrote into some of your books, hey, I just read this who book, right? You're my who. When I read this book, I thought about us, right? Yeah. There it is. See, people, when then they read it, they're not thinking of Bob Beaudine. What they're thinking about is Dan and this subject that this book, which is on friendship and us getting deeper, could all of a sudden mean something. And nothing is more impactful right now at a moment where the world is getting less face to face, and this will all of a sudden draw it. How many books do you get? I mean, how many people sign a book for you and send something today, and then they're talking about our friendship in the book? Because I'll tell you, that June Jones in football, he was the coach of Hawaii and SMU and the San Diego Chargers. He sent that kind of message out to people, and some of his friends called back off that book and go, I just read that who book. Holy cow, he's talking about us. How over the years did we lose our friendship? Let's get back together. Let's get our gang back together. And see, bam, now you're in. Because once someone's taken a place in your heart, they never leave. And see, if people could realize this, it just is wild. Yeah.
Bob, that's been the big, after reading this, it became crystal clear to me that my relationships with my good clients and friends just weren't deep enough. Just a random call into someone. And then the verbiage that you say, it's okay to tell someone that you love them. That was another aha after listening to some of your interviews online. There's nothing wrong with telling a friend of yours, I love you, bro, or I love you, man. I'm so glad you're in my life. So it's big.
Well, that's such a big piece today. So the three things that really people are so excited about is, first is your energy. You can't see it, but I can sure feel it. And if you get up, if people are on telephone calls and there's an energy, I go, Dave, what are you doing? Dan, how's it going? Your energy's up. And they're so excited. They can't believe that you're calling and doing that. And hey, how are you? And if they said, I'm okay, well, what's the matter? Because that's a clue. See, the answer is I don't know about you, but the number one tip in life is I want to help you and Dave in your worst moments. I want to help you when something's wrong with the family, something's wrong in one of your best friends is in trouble over here, your kid can't get into a college or something's trying into a school, you've been always wanting to do this. I'm all in on that. And the difference is that if people will get that energy, the love piece, again, who can see it, right? But it's the most powerful force. And so today, people are still afraid. They used to have this TV show, Love Ya Buddy, like all that in this. No, I'm telling you to say, love you first to your family and your friends. Like, there's 180 words in the Greek language for love. And we have one. We have one. No wonder we're all messed up. So I love my wife and I love tacos. There's something wrong. But the answer is, but I will tell you that champions in sports, they love Dabo Sweeney, Clemson. I mean, he's getting people to totally get this, right? In this process. And so he really understands this whole facet of getting people. If you and I love what we're doing, we love the people we're doing it with, we love the place we're doing it, and we're doing all these things for the right reasons, people all of a sudden will do it. The operative word here is love, right? And so all of a sudden that's really big.
And you can definitely, a guy like Dabo, you can see that he just everything about him is love based. You can see it. He loves his job. He loves his kids. He loves his family. So incredible example. One thing that I wanted in, let's just say in my personal business right now, I've got 3 or 4 really great lenders that I might be recruiting to do business with, or 3 or 4 really great real estate agents that have big teams that do high volume. And they're used to just turning and burning, paying for a bunch of leads and closing 20, 30 deals a month. What advice do you have for someone like that to kind of reprogram their thinking from turn and burn to power of who?
So the first thing is that, so readers are leaders, right? So first off, no one ever's ever gotten a book. So don't think like I'm telling you to send a book like I make money on a book. I mean, get out of here. I send every one of my clients a book. Why? To honor them.
Yeah.
And say, hey, I wrote this. Hey, I'm underlining this, right? So I think one of the things is I'm trying to get somebody to be on the language we're talking. So I don't want to do business with people I like. I tell my clients right off the bat that everything that we're going to do is going to be transformational, and it's going to be of the highest integrity and the highest trust. And so how would I do that? Well, it's easier for me to first, again, go backwards and find who those lenders and who those top real estate agents' friends are. Where do they go? What do they like to do? And I'm not manipulating this. I'm trying, because that's my field. That's who you are.
Yeah.
I find that all those great leaders, they all have trouble. They're all sitting in some issues. They all would love a book that actually reminds them to slow down. So see, because what you're talking about is time, and time is our enemy, right? But timing's our best friend. So it's a paradigm. Time, enemy, timing, best friend. So what if I took time out to drop you a note when your mom passed away? It helps you, talk to you, care about you, listen to you. What we're not doing is we're thinking we can bypass that, like I'm going to do it, and then I'm thinking my business is going to do. So I just want to make sure you understand is my world I live in is very similar to yours. It's on one side, I've got clients and they are doom. Yeah. Okay. I don't do, first off, any business with any client who doesn't say they love me.
Wow.
So period. So I do this thing where I'm constantly getting out saying, hey, I'd like to meet you. And then I'm talking about their family. I'm talking about people who what their sons and daughters. Do you have time to first talk about family before you get into the deal? Listen, I'm not even ever talking about Eastman and Beaudine, my firm. I never tried to. I first just try to build a friendship. And so if you're really wanting to do that elite type of level, listen, 94% of the people in the country do business with people they like and trust. So this isn't about the other. So you could get in line and do requests for proposals, and you could be involved in all this. You could make a lot of cold calls. That totally wore me out as you started. Look at it. I had to write notes, a bunch of people who didn't care. I mean, I get 52,000 resumes a year, dear recruiter. I've never placed someone in 38 years. And so no one's going to do this. So the slow down piece is, let's take some people to breakfast and lunch. Let's go and first find one person we know who knows them. And we already know that. And have that person say, you know what? There's a guy I really want you to meet, Dan. And listen, he does business differently. He's, I don't know, he cares about you. He loves you. And so, and then once I do it, I sit and talk about, listen to me, there's not Bob Beaudine pieces. I think this is a real question for people to think about today. Do you live your lives in a compartment? Do you see business over here, and then your college friends, your sports friends, your family, and this, all like different? I can't ever talk about church. I can't ever talk about this. Yeah. Listen, I'm transparent. There's one Bob Beaudine. I'm just telling you right off the bat that, hey, listen to me. I believe in that I can talk to you about all of those, and I'm going to, if we're talking and I could help you, right? Because that's my goal. My goal is to connect with you, to serve you, and then to love you. And so my goal is those three. And then what happens in this is the law of reciprocity, and God just works, and all of a sudden I get other business. But if you think, or if people are listening to this, think that's kind of Pollyanna, or like, hey, that's not really going to work with big ones. Well, I've done the commissioner of baseball. I do all the presidents of every NBA and NFL and Major League Baseball team. I do all the stuff. I place 50 plus of the 100 athletic directors, 80 some head coaches, and I'm not working with one of them if they don't agree, and I can't tell them I love them and they love me and we hug. So when you walk in the door and you're handshaking and I'm waiting in the way to come in, and then you see me come in and you handshake and say, hey, it was really nice meeting, and then that person hugs me and gives me a kiss on the cheek, you're in trouble.
Yeah, because you're in.
Hey, guys, real quick, I want to jump in, and I hope everybody just heard what Bob said.
Yeah.
Those numbers, that influence he have, is mind-boggling. The fact that in the world of recruiting, even one human being has that type of dominance and influence is staggering. So trust me when I say you can learn something from that. And one of my all-time favorite quotes from Bob, and you guys just have to kind of believe this, it's like, you know everyone you already need to know to have your dream job, to get to your dream partner, to have the kind of financial success that you want. You just got to go deep. Now, I'm not saying don't ever cold call someone and go outside of that hoop. But what I am saying is I see so often, even new loan officers getting into the business, they're so busy chasing acquaintances that they ignore their who. And so I'm all about who first, have this who first mentality. And yeah, if you've gone who first, you're optimizing your who, and there's some strategic relationships. But by the way, trust me, as you go after those strategic relationships, if you're a who first professional, you will go after them differently. Yeah. You will show up differently with those relationships. So one thing I want to make sure happens in this call, we've got about 18 minutes left, is Dan, I want to make it tactical so people can learn from what you've done. You've read the book, you've subscribed to the concept, you've developed your own why around who, and now you're implementing as a mortgage coach in your local market. So I want to make sure everybody knows what that looks like. So if you two could, I'm going to jump back off camera, let you guys rock it out. Yeah. But let's make sure they know how to take this and take action on this.
Yeah, I mean, tactically speaking, I'm going to share what I'm doing, and I learned this from Bob. And then what I wanted to do is ask Bob one final question in regards to us being able to tap into his mind if he were to just implement this strategy, or how he implements this in his business. But first, what I've done, so first off, I read the book. And second, I went to Google and I just Googled Bob Beaudine, Power of Who. I encourage you to do that, because you're going to see interviews from the Today Show to speaking engagements that you've had, and there's just common things that come up. And, I think one of the things that I learned from you, Bob, I'm an implementer. So I bought 13 of your books, one for me, and then 12 to hand out. I didn't hand out 12 right away because I don't have 12 people that I can genuinely right now that I could give them to, but I've handed out 7. And I took your advice, Bob. What I did in the front cover is this is what I wrote. And I think, Dave, you put a picture of this up, but basically it's super simple. Hey, Adam, you are my who. When I read this book, I thought about us. I love you, Dan Keller. And I've sent that out to 5 real estate professionals in my market that I do business with, that I've dropped the ball in regards to going deep and really loving on them, finding out how I can really help them accomplish their goals. You said something in one of your interviews, and it's something about a friend is someone who can finish the story or the song. What was that quote, or what was that? What do you say?
A friend is someone who knows the song in your heart and can sing it back to you when you've forgotten the words.
That woke me up, man. That woke me up, because I've got very few people in my life that I know could do that to me, and likewise me to them. And so I think you guys listeners, that's been my big aha with this book, among many others. But implementation, bought the books, sent them out, and then really had a conversation, a face-to-face conversation with them about how we get, like, I love what you said, we get so busy and our businesses are so fast-paced. Slow down and realize that we have people right now that we could call that could help us achieve all of our goals for 2019. And it's my focus for 2019. I'm going to try to have more conversations with other agents about it, but that's really what I'm doing. And then I do make a lot of cold calls. It's a part of being in sales. It's a part of our business. But one of the things that I've implemented right away, Who Friday. And I wanted to ask you where you're at in your career. Do you still do Who Fridays?
Every Friday. So every Friday we stop work after lunch.
Yeah.
And we call all our friends. And so I start out and say to people, listen, I'm not just calling clients that are doing it. It's now extended. My who is so extended now that people like, they want, sometimes they'll want a text where I'm saying, hey, I'm thinking about you and I appreciate your friendship and I love you. Yeah. And then other people, you get this feeling deep in your soul that says, hey, I need to call Dan Keller today. And then you call Dan, you go, hey, how you doing? He goes, wow, I can't believe you were calling today. And I go, I wanted to call. Now I switch. This is a shift. I wanted to call and tell you that I was thinking about you and you're on my heart. And so listen, hey, I want to encourage you on a few things. And then I start hitting encouragement. Yeah. And then I stop and say, so what is it that you're trying to achieve today that I could do? So who are you trying to meet? Who are you trying to get doors open? See, no one wants to, it's the connecting and serving and loving. This is what listen to me. I ask people all the time when I go around, what's your title? I'm the director of this. I'm the president of this. I've got this. And here they give me all their titles. I said, would you forget the titles? You're the director of love. That's who we are. Every day, you don't want to go to a low title, right? And so how would I know that you have that ability? So people say to me, listen, Bob, you got all these who. And here's what I want to tell you. So you're online and you see somebody and you're in your network or somewhere, and you find out it's their birthday. Where are you sending them a note? Because I send a note all the time to everyone. And if for people who are in my who, I call them personally and sing happy birthday.
I love it.
Okay. I'm not like, the answer is I'm going to do whatever it takes to embarrass myself, to show myself vulnerable, to tell you how much I love you and why you matter to me and that I don't want you to miss this moment. If you had somebody and you heard they did something well, or they went to your school, or they did something else, did you send them a note? I mean, so the answer is there are people that write things that, why wouldn't you send a note to them? And I just saw that you wrote this. It's so wowed me. I got a guy who called me yesterday and sent a note to me and said, hey, your book and your second book, Two Chairs, have totally revolutionized the way I think. And he says, if you ever get a chance, call me. I immediately just picked up the phone and called him. And he goes, seriously? Is this you? And so the reason is this, this timing thing.
Yeah.
So we believe that if I'm not doing something over here in business that's about money and position and power, that does not equate to peace, happiness, and contentment. And if you and I could take a moment and bring peace and some joy and just fellowship to our friends at a moment, who do you think? Listen to me. That's what our whole life is. What good is it that we own a yacht and we're out there on our own? So so these people who are very successful, you know what they don't have? Friends.
Yeah.
People are seeking friendship today. They're not seeking business, they're seeking friendship. And if you could be that friend, what is that? Well, you care for them, you listen to them, you call on them, you take them to lunch, you take them to coffee, you encourage them. Yeah. And so that's a piece that we're missing every single day. And listen to me. If I could tell you, you asked me what I do, I am disguised as an executive recruiter. And that's what I think everyone who's in the mortgage, in banking, mortgage lending, mortgage broker, business, all of you need to stop this route that says, this is who I am. You know what you are? You're a dang lover of people. You get them, you trust them, and you know what they can't do? So would you be surprised that like Friday's my biggest day of business? I've never even asked for it. The answer is you cannot outgive God. You can't outgive the facet of serving people. I do not serve people to get their business, connect with people to get all of a sudden get something or love on them. You know what it does? It drops endorphins in me. It makes me like euphorically happy. And so that's what you're doing. So if you don't let me help you, you're stopping my buzz.
Yeah.
And so that's what people need to realize. This is so if you would just take a moment first, you get 12 friends, one best friend, 3 close, 8 others, a total of 12. And they float in your life, in your time. You need to declare who they are. You need to immediately go and take each of them and say, hey, you know what? This includes your wife and sometimes your family, which you stopped and you put in a different box. They're not in a different box for me. And you go and you say to them, did I tell you today that I love you? Did I tell you how fantastic you are? Did I tell you that, this, and I need you and I need to spend more time. We need to go coffee. We need to do this. Dang it. It was just, hey, what about golf? We'll do this. Yeah. So, I mean, people who say you don't have time for golf, let me get this correct. So you don't have time for 3 or 4 hours that you and I get to talk and be friendship. You know, I make more money and do more business on planes. So I do not have these in my ears on planes.
Yeah.
I turn and go, hello. That's a really wild thing today. Hello. I was on a plane the other day. I'm on another plane the other day. A person next to me is has their earbuds in and not going to talk to me. They're working on their resume. Seriously. They wouldn't talk to me. I could have changed the entire trajectory of their life. And that's what I'm telling everyone today who's listening.
Yes.
Listen, is I'm telling you that you hold the key to your friends and family's goals and dreams. It's the opposite. It's the contrarian view.
Yeah.
You got to go figure out how you can help them. What? Not in their business, in their life. You and I need to jump into our friends and our families and our top clients' lives. When they say, hey, listen, I've got this, I'm doing something for the Special Olympics and I'm trying to do this. Hey, can I help you? Hey, I'm doing this thing over here and we're handing out this over here. No, I'm in. And so what do you want from that? I don't want anything. Listen to me, I'm in this business. How can you sustain any business? I'm in search now for 38 years. Wow. And so it's the same jobs. You know what it is? I love people. If you love people in your business, you're going to be ridiculously successful. And that energy, that what we see, that energy, that love, that time is what's going to do. It's going to create dreams for you, wildly above everything that you ever see. You're never going to be in lack. There's no lack. You lack nothing right now to be what? Friendly, loving. But men over the age of 35, stop adding friends. They're friendly, not friends. And I'm just telling you, it's a curse. And so you need to get outside yourself. This isn't about you. It's about them.
Wow. So real quick, one last thing for me. I want you to close with this. Something that I learned from you is creating your own personal board of directors. Would you talk about that? Because it's super, super valuable right now as it relates to your who.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that. So this is my number one tip for a person in life. One, you need 7 people on your personal board.
Okay.
And so you have to actually ask them. You have to first think about these people. They're already available to you. They're already in your life. You just haven't thought about these 7. And these 7 have an all access backstage pass to your life. And you meet with them to talk about your life. Okay. Number one, if you're one of these positions is your mom or your dad, there's a blessing. Now, if your mom or dad isn't alive, then the answer is you're going to still take a mom or dad figurehead. Okay. Who's actually done that for you. But this person, there's a blessing that comes in it is if you would honor your mom or dad, long life, great health. I don't know. I want that. Do you want that? I want that. Okay. There we go. Number 2, you need to have your mate. Most people do not ask their mate about their business. Big mistake. The answer is you're one. And so if you are dating just someone in this process, then we might take that in this aspect to the number 3 and add 2 of these people if you can. You got to have the third person is your best friend, somebody who you could tell everything to. And if you're not doing that today, Well, you're going to stop and give them the book and
Yeah.
say, I want you to read this book because it's going to change the way you think. And then you and I are going to talk about it because I want to have this type of friendship with you. This is where we are. I don't have any of that. I mean, I don't have anybody work in my firm. I don't have any business with clients. I don't have anything in my kids. If I meet someone new, I'm handing them a book. Why? Because I want to have this type of relationship. So then you have 4 technical advisors. So first you had your mom or your dad, your mate, and your best friend. Okay. Then you have 4 technical advisors. You have a financial advisor. Now, this is really good for your business because I really want, Dan, people like you on my personal board of directors.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're smarter than me. I do not want to be the smartest person in the room. I'm not going to make a financial decision without turning to someone and saying, hey, so what do you think about this? Is this wise?
Yeah.
And so listen to me, never do your own financial advice. I just probably, the next one is your legal advisor. Never have a legal advisor to your legal advisor. You always want one, but you never want to have just your own legal, like in your company, and that's your legal advice. Yeah. No, this is in your who. Someone in your who can look and say, should I say this? And then 2 other people, you need to have a career coach, a life coach, kind of one of those who actually can stop and say, hey, this is how I'm thinking about, I'm messing up here. And the last one is your moral compass, your spiritual leadiness. It doesn't that could be your pastor, your rabbi, it could be someone who's just a great friend who just has this moral compass, says, don't do that. We don't have to look in the paper more than every single second to find someone who wishes they had a personal board, that they said something. They decided to get mad at something. They wrote up on your web, on somehow your Facebook, you were mad about this political thing. Don't do that. Please, you have a business, and the answer is you're a brand, and this brand is something that's centered around friends. And when you do that, you're going to be hugely successful. The power of the people who matter most, they're going to take you to places you've never imagined possible. If you'd let them.
So good, Bob. So good. So thank you so much. I think this is so, this message right now is so important in today's day and age, where there's a lot of negativity out in the marketplace. There's not a lot of love. We need more love. And then in business, it's something in business that I think everyone listening to this, I learned so much being here today. And I have to let Dave Savage know, thank you so much for introducing me to Bob. You're going to change how business is done in Seattle because of this. I promise you that. And I'm taking it to the street. So thank you both for the call today.
I love it, man. Well, so Mortgage Coach community, as I wrap up today's call, I am showing our Facebook group, the Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind. And I hope we have a conversation. I hope to hear some success stories. Whose success stories? This is the post that I posted this morning on this. And there's some pictures I want to go through as we wrap up today's call. I want to make sure that everybody on this call is taking action. And one of the things to take action on is to just get the book, read the book, do the work. Again, assuming you want to go deeper with the friends that you have and even the new friends that you made. Like if Bob wouldn't have been a pro at going deep and building we wouldn't have the relationship we have today. And it's a special relationship. The picture you see right now is one of the coolest experiences I ever had in my life. Bob, when I was in town, invited me to the dugout suite at a Rangers game. He let me bring one of my best friends. This guy right here, his name's Mark Brooks, one of my high school brothers. He's someone that when I moved out for the first time, him and I were roommates for 5 years. He lived in Plano, and he joined me. And as we went into the dugout, former President George Bush comes up, and Bob, I think he said Bobby B. Was that his nickname for you? He's like, Bobby B. And he hugged you, he kissed you, and I got to spend a couple of hours with former president and his wife in the dugout suite. And by the way, things like that happen when you go deep with people. So again, I just can't emphasize enough. This is a powerful message. I didn't spend a lot of time sharing the gifts I've gotten, but there's been plenty. And if you're a referral-based local mortgage professional one of the things you need to do is blow up your empathy, blow up your personal connection, really go deep with the people that matter in your local markets. And again, The Power of Who is a great tool. It's a great book. It's a great metaphor. I hope folks on today's call got some value. And with that said, we are going to wrap this up. If you're watching to the recording of this, please give us a like if you got value from it. Like it in YouTube, Facebook, share it with your mortgage friends. Hopefully some of you in the community will really go deep on this, and you'll give the book. You'll maybe watch this with a realtor partner of yours that you want to go deeper with. Dan, any last words of wisdom as we wrap up the call?
No, just so good, Dave. So much value you continue to bring to the community. Bob's a rock star, just an incredible human being. And this will be massively impactful to anyone listening who implements this. So thanks so much for this content, man. You're awesome.
Right on. All right, everybody. Take care. This call is a wrap. Have a great day. Have a great week. And we'll see you on the Friday Mastermind.